Mike Learn Airbrush and Design here. Today we're continuing on with the video series that we started with Matt Flaherty and Chris Vesker down at Texas Toast Guitars. We got together and Matt had me kind of basically propose to me what would I do if I had a chance to build a guitar in his shop. Well, I've had a lot of respect for Matt and Chris for quite some time. They've been great friends, and I was really kind of thrilled to have the opportunity to go down there and do something. This particular guitar is based roughly off of the Fender Jazzmaster. I inherited my dad's '63 Jazzmaster, and I always wanted to do something based upon that guitar because there was no way in hell I was going to touch that guitar and do something cool to it. It has too much sentimental value as it is. So this particular guitar is actually roughly based off of that Jazzmaster, and you can see the shape pretty much continually around to get to the horns. At that point, I redesigned it for a 24 fret neck, and to have full accessibility to those 24 frets, we also cut the neck pocket much like Fender did back in the day, except they did it on a 21 fret neck, where the contour of the neck ends right at the pocket. There's no overhanging fingerboard. We went with a single coil pickup, slanted Eddie Van Halen style that you've seen a lot through the 80s in the Kramer Pacer series, Beretta series as well. Let's see what else about this guitar. We based this guitar for a class that we're going to be doing, I believe in April. No, I'm sorry, March 12th or 15th through the 20th, somewhere in there. I can't remember the exact dates, but we'll post them. It's going to be the week of my birthday, ironically, so anybody who comes to the class gets to physically abuse me as much as they can on St. Patrick's Day. But the idea with the guitar was to do something different. We didn't want to just come in and recreate a Stratocaster, a Telecaster, or something. I really wanted to pay homage to the old Jazzmaster, but kind of kick it in the ass a little bit. And so we decided to call this one the SPazzmaster. And continuing on with the idea of what we're going to do in the class, we decided to go with a Warbird series paint scheme. So the class will actually have many different options. We'll probably have like 3 or 4 different paint schemes, planes, modeling, you know, that sort of thing to work from. So in this particular one, I'm doing one that I haven't done yet. This one here is the Republic P47D Thunderbolt. This plane was developed in 1939. Ironically, it was designed by a couple of Russian designers who defected from Russia slightly before 1939. And you might notice some of the, if you're familiar with American aviation, you might notice some of the styling similarities between some of the early Russian planes that developed in the late 30s as well, the Yak in particular. But the plane itself was rather stout and was known to be a hardy plane. It was a pretty big fighter plane itself, carrying a 50 cal armament and 18-cylinder Pratt & Whitney engines. It had a very fortified cockpit area where it was really good against taking small arms hits. This thing was known to be pretty much indestructible in the air. A lot of pilots really liked it because it was such a stout plane. So in this particular one, we're going with a plane that was famous during the era, and the plane actually carried the moniker Balls Out. So I'm going to be doing that Balls Out logo through here. We're going to be doing the American logo insignia that the planes generally had on during that era. We'll be doing some kill marks, a lot of riveting, a lot of distressing, a lot of chipping, so forth and such, but be using a combination of mask and a combination of some brushwork as well. So I think that pretty much covers it. Oh yeah, ironically, they named this thing the Jug because it was so big and graceful in the sky, I guess. But this plane was known as the Jug. There was a couple different variations on it. This particular one that I'm working from is a D with a canopy on it. There was earlier models that had basically the fuselage continuing down to the tail section of the plane. So I think that it's important to do these things. The Warbird is a commemoration and you know, a tribute to a generation that we're losing daily. You know, we lost so many of them in the war, but so many of them came home, and they're dwindling by the numbers. Most of them in their 90s now, and it's going to be probably not too long in our lifetime that we will see the last one fade away. So this particular style of paintwork that I do is oftentimes directly related to a particular image, a particular plane that I will carry on a tribute to. So I started this thing off spraying it silver, a really light grain silver. It's not a real heavy flake or heavy metallic. It looks more like aluminum, which is the look I wanted to go for. And then in order to expedite time in this filming, I taped off the front section here, sprayed the red, taped off section of that, taped off the silver, and then I sprayed the drab gray, which oftentimes you would find on the tops of these planes. And they didn't do it completely thoroughly. I don't necessarily know, other than my understanding is that the glare coming off the top of the aluminum in front of the cockpit would oftentimes blind the pilot. So they put in a flat color. Oftentimes it was a matte black. In this particular case, it was a drab. So that's what we're simulating here. Kind of just paying some cues to a lot of the paint schemes that we do find on the P47D. And the cool thing about the P47D is that, I don't know if it was because of the size of the front of the plane, but there's some amazing nose art on those planes from that era. And I find them more so than a lot of the other fighter planes during World War II. You might find a lot of cool stuff on the P-51, but the P-47 itself has so much room right around the engine area that they had some really great artists back in those days doing this stuff. And I often wonder if that's all they did, if they were commissioned by the United States Army, the Air Force, and so forth to actually just do nothing but paint cool stuff on planes. Sometimes you'll find these planes, like this particular one, where the plane may have been shot down at one point in time, and then the pilot obtained a new one, and so the artwork would be somewhat similar, but yet different. It would be identifiable as, hey, that's the same guy, obviously, but the artist would have a certain amount of flexibility in what he's doing, and would change it up from time to time. So I have seen two different versions of this. Now, I don't know which one was the latter of the two, but this particular one is the one we're going to be working with. And you can see this is actually a model airplane. I believe it's a Rivets P47D, probably 1/48 scale. So the decals on it have a pretty good representation and can give me a good guide to follow. I'm going to change it up a little bit, but for the most part, you're gonna get exactly what you see here. We're going to start with this section up here with the balls out, and I'll be doing some airbrushing and I'll be doing some brush work. Alright, I'm starting off with this mask that I created in CorelDRAW. These particular files will be available for the class that we're having down at Texas Toast. I'm using the FBS UTG Gold film. I really like this stuff. Has a lot of different applications and, I suppose, advantages to some of the other masks. It's somewhat transparent. It's relatively thin, so you're not going to get a really crazy edge along your graphic. I'll be doing all of this with the airbrush, so trying to keep the build and edges to a minimum so I don't have to get too carried away with the clear. So what I'm going to do, I have pre-sized this, and I'm going to kind of get a feel for where everything is. You know, just holding it up to the light, kind of getting a grasp of where everything is on this so I can get the position nice and placed properly. Make sure I'm not cutting out any features. Some of the stuff will probably hang down into the pickup cavity. And I think that's going to be pretty good for what we got to do. Alright, so I'm just going to put it up here. It's going to come into the red a little bit. I'm going to have the tail. Oh, that's right, we got to put the balls out up top there, so. So that's going to kind of go down like that. And I'll go ahead and remove the transfer tape. This one's not getting a painted pickup, although that may change, who knows. So I'm going to start with the white first. There's a white field that kind of works its way around this image. And then this little back section here. Now I am taking some artistic liberty with the placement of these, just to accommodate the shape of the guitar and what we're working with. So it's going to be pretty close, but it will have some variations in it. So now I'm going to grab my FBS Pro mask. I had one open. Oh, it's right there.
That was part of my display.
Alright, so I love this stuff here, the FBS Pro mask. It's all ready to go. It doesn't leave any residue on your work. The base coat dries rather quickly, a little slower this time of year. Utilize the heater, the air source from that to speed things up when I have to. But the stuff doesn't really track. I really love this stuff. I use the hell out of it. So I'll fold that over so we can still see that reference. And there we have it. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of white in the airbrush, and I'm going to see about knocking this line down just a little bit. I'm just going to take a little 500 in here and get rid of some of this overlapping line so it doesn't pop up into my graphics as much. If you really wanted to be specific and a little bit more, I suppose, efficient on these masking and not having to do this, if you had the shape of this completely planned out and everything was where it's going to be, you could actually design this whole stencil to lay out at once so you didn't have all these overlaps. But it would have been a little bit more difficult trying to spray this larger stuff. You have to remove so much, and so I actually decided to go ahead and spray that red and green first, knowing that I would just come in here with a little bit of 500 grit. And I'm not trying to get rid of the line. I'm just getting rid of the light edge from it, and it'll make a big difference in the end product. Alright, so I don't really have this stuff reduced. Probably why it's not spraying out. But I don't have it reduced that much, and I'm just going to lightly spray it in. I'm not going to try to put it all in there once. I'm going to put my mask on while I'm spraying here. Okay, I'm going to put the mask back in place to protect the white and help generate the edge for the red up top. Okay, I got the white protected with the mask. I just used some of the same pieces I peeled out earlier and put them in. The nice thing about the UTG Gold is that it does not stretch. It does retain its shape perfectly. The downside is because there is no real elasticity, you will tear it periodically as you're removing it. You start to get into some shapes that just the corners will want to tear out, like right at the tip of this horn. So I'm just going to be taking tape, and I'm going around and just protecting so I don't get any overspray on the edges where this may not have lined up perfectly, but good enough because we're going to be going around this whole thing with a brush in the end here, separating the white from the red. So now that I got the white protected, I'm going to go in, I'm going to grab the elements that we're going to be spraying red. And I'm going to save those off to the side. Now when I'm using this razor blade, I'm not really digging into the surface. I'm just picking up the corner of the tape. And notice I'm trying to just keep this in one piece. If you were to have to cut it, that would be fine. But I generally will cut multiples of this particular mask so I have extras at hand when I need it. That's the nice thing about using the plotter. You don't have to worry about double cutting on a line. It's really, really convenient. And another thing too, like the whole idea with this mask stuff that we're going to be selling these masks in the future for different airplanes and different Warbird schemes. The nice thing about this, as far as the class that we're going to be doing at Texas Toast, is that beyond building the guitar, we're going to be painting it. And there's going to be a lot of guys who are more interested in painting, and there's going to be other guys who are more interested in building. So there's going to be a skill set that's probably lacking in the airbrush department for most of the guys who are interested in doing this building. We're going to keep it to the point where you don't have to be a virtuoso with the airbrush. You can be just the average guy who knows how to go like this. I'll take care of the rest. You guys will not have to worry about not being able to do something because you've never airbrushed before. Many of the students that I have with these classes teaching for the Airbrush Art Circus, they are guitar guys who have never airbrushed. So I get a lot of guys coming in, I have to create schemes that I think they're going to be able to handle. And most of them feel quite adapted to the airbrush afterwards and feel comfortable giving a shot. A friend of mine, Frank Pasquale, he's actually been in my classes twice and now has really become quite the confident airbrusher, I might add. And I think you'll find that there's nothing that's going to be too challenging for somebody who hasn't airbrushed before. That. Put some red in there. So now I'm going to take the red in the airbrush and I'm going to fill in these areas. Okay, we're going to let that dry. Now I've got the red sprayed, had adequate enough time to dry. I actually took a heat gun to this and just kind of accelerate a little bit. We're a little bit colder today. I keep my shop temperatures right around 55. And it's not exactly balmy, you know what I'm saying? So it's balls out. So I'm gonna put my mask back in place. Again, I'm not getting too carried away with the registration. I will be going around this with a pen. Okay, the red's all masked off. Now I'm going to go in and peel out the areas where we'll be spraying the black. I won't have to worry about keeping this mask because it will be the last color that we will be spraying in any volume. I'll be doing some white on top of this, but not much. But if I did for some reason mess up and re-need another mask or reuse another mask, I'll just grab it off of the additional one that I have cut over there. So this is all masked. I'm going to put some black on my airbrush and then we're going to spray the lower part of this. I'll use a couple of different mixtures as far as the thickness of paint that I'm using. When I'm doing large covered areas and I'm not really shooting for any detail, in order to get faster coverage, I don't necessarily reduce it down like I would if I was trying to airbrush and get great detail. I'm looking for fast coverage, get it on there, and moving on with the rest of the project. Alright, so now I got the black sprayed in, I'm going to go ahead and unmask all this, and then we're going to do some more of the details underneath. Alright, got it all unmasked. I'm going to go cut the lettering for it. Alright, so I'm laying out my lettering right now. Got a little bit of an edge in here. It's not too bad. White's minimal. The red's it's gonna be red anyway that I'm putting in there. So I'm gonna mask this off again. Do I have any the smaller FBS? I can't say enough about this product for you guys out there who have never used it. Automotive painters, motorcycle painters, guitar painters. This stuff's awesome. Comes with the paper and the tape already attached, ready to go. No special huge mechanisms to run around your shop with. They actually have a dispenser for this, but I find myself oftentimes too preoccupied to use the dispenser, so I just rip it and tear off what I need. In fact, I don't even know if I have any more of the little dispensers around. I think I may have misplaced them all with all my razor blades and Sharpies that disappear somehow in the shop. This stuff is just great. I love it. I try to use as much of it as I can over and over again. I'll probably just hang some of these because I will be doing quite a bit of this little masking today. So, alright, first color I'm going to throw down is going to be a white. I'm going to put down a white foundation just to help with the coverage. Just to help with the coverage on the red. It'll be nice and even, but that's also going to mean it's going to take a while for this to dry because I will have multiple layers of paint on there. So, here we go. Let that dry. Alright, I got the lettering cut out on the UTG mask, and right now I am going to take some clear transfer tape and register it here so I can spray the black outline around this lettering. Now I could have done it by hand, but in this particular case I figured it was an opportunity to show you guys a couple different ways to do the same thing. So this particular material here I got from Coast Airbrush. Some really good stuff for this type of thing. Also, FBS now has a clear vinyl film, more semi-translucent, has like a light value of blue to it, but that stuff's great too because you got film and transfer tape that is completely clear. So now I'm going to take the black that I have set up in the airbrush. What I've been doing is keeping one airbrush with a particular color, and I'm bouncing back and forth between airbrushes rather than cleaning paint out of my airbrush, just to expedite this whole process of filming this video. That's generally how I will work in most cases. I'll keep multiple airbrushes running. Alright, let's give this a little time to dry. Peel it off. Alright, now I'm carefully going to go in. You rolling? Just peel this stuff out. I like to grab it from sharp corners more often than grabbing it from a flat side. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and unmask everything here. I'm going to keep my UTG Pro Mask pieces off to the side so I don't waste a whole bunch of it, as I'll be doing this type of masking periodically throughout the project. Real simple graphic, but it's bold. The colors work well together. Alright, I think what I'm going to do now is set up for the white detailing here in the actual bowl, and then we'll go in and do some brushwork on it. Right. So now I'm just going to get rid of some of the lines that I previously had used in here. I'm just going to be left with the perimeter shape of the bowl. And I'm going to get rid of, that's good, that's good, that's good. I'm going to get rid of this as well. Get rid of this whole thing. I don't need it. So that's going to be the shape that's going to get dropped in. I'm going to do that with the clear transfer film. And then I will be airbrushing these details lightly on the surface. I'm going to go ahead and set up a little perimeter cut around it. Back out so you can see the difference between the two masks. This is where we had the mask with the separation for the red and the black and the white primary. And you know, there's a couple different ways it could have been done. You could have sprayed this whole thing white, laid in all these intricate pieces at the same time prior to doing this. There have been a couple different ways, and you know, it might have been just as fast. So there's not necessarily one set way to do this. All right, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it into my program, and then I'm going to run it on the plotter. Alright, I'm going to line this up the best I can here. And I'm just going to drop it down. This UTG gold and this clear transfer tape really work well together. I'm going to take my mask over here to kind of isolate this stuff. I'll have to do some little taping in there, which I'm not going to have to necessarily run on camera. Actually protect myself with a bunch of overspray blow by. Right now I've got some white in the airbrush. I'm going to go ahead and put in these markings. Grab my mask. Now I'm going to go ahead and peel all this off, and then we'll come back and do the brushwork. Actually, you know what? I think we'll save the brushwork for last, and we'll continue on with airbrushing some of the other items, features on this particular airplane. Okay, so we have the main kind of nose art done right now. We're going to move on to some of the insignias, some kill marks down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay these all at the same time. There'll be 2 to 3 colors, and then we'll just go ahead and do the registration and put those on. I'm using this line right here as a horizontal guide for my next piece. So now I'm going to take the white, I'm going to go ahead and fill in this area. I'm not sure which order I'm going to do this one up here yet. It might depend if I want to do a 3-color or what. I think I probably will put black in first and do a 3-color. Alright, I'm lining up the central part of these kill marks using this clear transfer film. Gotta be careful not to pull it too tight. It likes to stretch. Go ahead and put in the bar and star. Line it up the best they can. Again, don't pull on it too much with this clear transfer film. Okay, now I got the blue. I'm going to go ahead and put that down. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and peel all this tape off. And I'm going to take some degreaser now and wipe this whole thing down. Now the next thing we're going to do is do the white and black stripes underneath the body. So I'm going to have to hang this outside the shop here or off the easel so I can tape it off properly. And then we'll probably be spraying it out there because it's hanging. I can do the sides at the same time, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so now I'm going to take the brush, I'm going to go around and I'm going to outline this with base coat. It'd probably work better with striping urethane, but it's a little slow drying, so I don't want to hold up the project watching paint dry. Downside using urethane to stripe is it's not as fluid or consistent as a one-shot or another striping enamel. You could use Color striping urethane safely. But no matter what you do, because I don't have any barrier on this, it's possible to make a mess on your work.
What kind of brush are you using there?
You know, I'm not really sure what this thing's called. What the hell is the name on it?
I've never seen one like that before.
Laser Lines brush. It's adaptable. You can screw in different brush sizes. It's nice when you're traveling and to do work off location. It's got a bunch of different styles of brushes to use. A couple little lines you want to fix up in between. So now we got to do the outline around the white. Actually, I don't even think there's an outline on that. No, I'm not going to do it. No outline. So I did a little splatter there that'll blend right in with the distressing, which we are about to do. We're going to start with the rivets. I'm going to cut out some on the plotter, and then we'll go ahead and airbrush those in, and we'll start doing some distressing. We'll do the front, and we'll flip over, and we'll do the back. So I'm just going to tape these off on the ends so I can line them up later. Don't get too much overspray around them. It's going to be fast and furious.
What you making?
Doing the rivets. Gonna start with black. Do the panels. Then I'm going to do the underside. Imagine where your light source is. These are going to have just a little light profile to them. I don't want to make them look like screw heads. And then I'm going to take the white and reduce it down a little bit more. And just hitting the top edge of the rivet with a little hot spot. And that's it for that. I'm going to peel these off, place them elsewhere.
Wow.
Probably run a row right down through here. So what I'll do is I'll line up the rivet off that rivet, bring it down. I'll have it stop here. No real method to this madness. Oftentimes these painted features will coincide with a physical feature on the plane, row of panels, sheet metal. Eventually we'll have these things integrate around, make their way around the body of the guitar. We'll do black first. Sometimes when you're doing rivets right over white, the gray won't, or the white won't necessarily show in the highlight, so I'll just ghost just the top of it, like that, but still darken the bottom side. Highlights. Get that top one. And that will do it. Peel that. And we're really going to start to get a cool pattern going here. I really like doing the weathering on this stuff. I think it really brings it together. Bullet holes and such. do all that stuff. It's a repeat of one of the videos we had doing that, correct, Ty?
Yeah, we have little videos on each one of those techniques for different guitars, but this one will be the full deal.
The whole spiel.
Yeah.
Alright, put that in there. And then over here. This one here's got a little taper because of the cutaway. So I'm just gonna go like that, get that line straightened back out, and then put a piece of tape on it right there, and then go back in it with the black. Lower part there. You gotta watch getting these too dark. They don't look right. Nice and light. Alright. Fill those.
Reveal.
Shadow. Hangs out the side. You can get a lot of use out of these. You can use them for quite some time. I think I'm going to bring one down through here. I'll show you guys so it looks like it being done over top of the black. So we'll kind of go through that. Offset them. Alright, I'll put my piece of tape there. Black. You really don't see it on the black, but I'll show you how I'm going to address that here. Okay, now with the black on the black, or the rivet on the black, what I'm going to do is just the opposite way I did the white. The highlight top, just a smidgen on the bottom, a little dusting. Alright, we'll peel that. And one other thing I'm going to do is take the white on this edge here. Actually, you know what? We'll jump in. No, we got to do that later. We'll do that later. I'm going to show you another technique for leading edge on the paint, where it looks like it's peeled off to the aluminum. So now we can do the distressing. First thing we're going to do is finish up the rivets. The rivets are going to require some shadowing, and I'll be using a business card to help me out with some of the stuff I'm going to do on the panels. So first thing in there, just come in. What do you do? Right across the top of the rivet. A really light semicircular halo, which makes those rivets look like they're pulling in the sheet metal into the subframe structure. I'm just going to go around, do all of them. I try to do everything in the same pattern, or the same part of the technique, so I optimize my time and usage of a color or particular airbrush. Alright, then I'm going to start doing some of the weathering vertically, coming off the bottom of each of these rivets. Some staining. And you probably wouldn't see this too much on these planes here in World War II necessarily. You maybe see more after they've been sitting for a while. These guys took quite a bit of pride in their vehicles, their planes. I'm sure they would have wiped them down when needed, unlike me. Now I'm just going to use this to kind of help define some edges. Real subtle. I'm offsetting this but maybe a 64th of an inch. Let's give some of that panel a little bit of depth. Same thing up here too. I'll just kind of offset that just a little bit. It's all in the small stuff that really adds up. Little details. Fun part's when we start using the water. I think this one really starts to come together. Looking crusty. Like it just been out on a mission. Had a major oil leak. Took a few rounds to the oil container, fuel system, and things are leaking and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to grab my bottle of water. I'll be right back. So this is the mystical sauce right here, just a little H2O. And I'm just going to spray it on. Kind of go around the whole thing. Now you got to watch your air pressure when you do this in the distance, and you can kind of coast back on it a little bit. Going to give it some really nice weathering, and you can increase some of it along the edges of the guitar. It looks kind of cool. I really like this part of it. It dries really quick on the surface, so you don't have to panic. Take your time. Really difficult to do this with water base. Challenging, obviously. Two components involved, water-based paint, water. Well, something's got to go, right? So. And it's okay to hit this more than once. If you don't feel like you've gotten an area quite enough, or you missed something you want to add into it, that's fine. But you can see how nice this looks over top of the silver here, and really adds a nice dimension to it. So, and it also tones down a lot of things too. I use this particular technique a lot when I'm doing camo finishes for Phoenix weaponry. It mutes out the colors nice. I think everything's good. I'm going to get this edge a little bit. Kind of frame it a little bit. Okay, so now I'm just going around this edge, putting a light undercoating of gray. And then I'm going to take my silver. Be very careful with the silver because it likes to go everywhere, so I'm going to really get in tight with the silver. And then I'm going to take my black for the round template of the hole. I'm going to place it right in the middle there. I'm going to take my black and I'm going to blast that in. Fill it. I'm going to take that off. Keep it off to the side. And then I'll start doing some of the shading on the tears. Alright, so I can peel that off. And then when I'm all done, I'll come back in and do all the shadowing. The silver is a nice little touch when the light hits it. And then the silver. Isolated real tight so you don't have silver overspray all over your piece. And then the black. The stuff dries pretty quick, as light as I'm putting it on. Earlier today I probably had to wait just a little bit, but warmed up considerably. I'm going to save all those pieces. And voila. And we'll go ahead and add a couple more. Down here, I'm going to grab a couple other odd shaped tear outs I have cut so they don't look too repetitive. This one's already got the silver, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the gray anyway, just so it has a little bit of value difference. Put my circle back on. Blast through that, peel that, some shading. Just kind of imagine where your light source is when you're doing this. Peel that. And I think I need one down here. Same sequence. Gray to change the value. Go ahead and put the silver on lightly. And then put the black in. And it goes pretty good fast once you do it, but you can see why having 3 airbrushes or multiple airbrushes set up with your colors really speeds up the process.
Are you going to do any innies?
I will do an innie. I'm going to get the outies done first. So like Diana mentioned, we have innies, we have outies. So we got the outies done. I'm going to go ahead and do the innies. Being that they're the same caliber, I'll use the same hole. So let's put do a couple innies up here. Just fill the hole. And then I'll come in here and do a little semicircular around the top. And then one underneath it. You can make them look like they've been kind of going at an angle. In this particular case, it looks like they're coming straight at you. So I'll do another one here. We'll make this one look like it's coming in at an angle. Like that. And let's do a little innie down here. Or, yeah, innie. while I got the black and I got the bullet holes flying, now I'm going to do the drop shadows on the outies. Just little subtle hints. Give them a little dimension. Don't overdo it. Any more outies? Outies are all handled. Okay. So now, what I'll do is I'll take my white and I'll just hit it just a little bit. Maybe one of the highlights up here toward the top of the outies, and then the bottom of the outie where the light would be reflecting off of that curvature. Same thing down here on the innies. Just helps with the whole dimension, gives it some depth. Alright, I think that's about it. Alright, so for this chipping some of the painted areas, I'm going to kind of think about, as the vehicle's flying this way, the debris and rocks and stuff from the runway and debris in the air, it would chip away at the paint going this direction. So just going to give myself a little extra room down here, tape them off, and I'm going to just be doing this on the painted areas. I'm going to be doing that with gray. And then I'm just going to hit a light coat of silver. No fading, just so when the light hits it, it looks like it's busted through the aluminum. I'm going to save all this. I'm going to move around and do a few other places. Let's do some over here. This will help define this edge as well. It's real subtle, but it looks good. And then we'll do some shield work with that as well to give us the effect of chipping along the edges. I'm thinking that stencil might be a little big. I don't know how long it would take to make a little one. And that's how we do the leading edge chipping, like so. Alright, so now I'm going to take gray. I'm going to take this little stencil we made here. You can really see, but it's a bunch of perforations, kind of a distressed pattern here. And I'm going to run it right along the edge there, simulate some chipping. Effect, it's kind of cool. And just kind of work off the edge of the guitar body. Right here. And it's probably not going to show up all that well. I'll be doing some weathering on the sides and stuff like that, but that's pretty much it. So there we've gone through everything. We've gone through all the markings, gone through the layering of the stencils and the loose hand and the mask and the shields. Combination of colors used here. You're always starting with white when I can and then adding the colors on top of that. The edge isn't bad at all. I think the worst part is right here in the lettering where I put the white underneath the red, which really needed to be done. But those are the That's the biggest edge on this paint job. And we covered some basic brushwork, some bullet holes, and some rivets. So hope this helps you guys. We're probably going to have all these stencils available for sale at some point in time when we start selling our masks. So stay tuned for that. And check out Texas Toast Guitars. And this guitar will be for sale. Will be available. It is #1 in the series of SPazzmasters that we'll be making. This will be the guitar that we'll be building in class and painting in class. So some of you might want to do something like this. We'll have some other themes, and we'll have photo guides to work from as well. So enjoy your day.